The crime is mine, I'll take the blame, but everybody had a part to play. So everybody has a price to pay. So everybody has a price to pay.
So I'm Anne Sanson, and I'm the convener of Darebin Climate Action Now, and we're very, very happy to be involved in this event. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and acknowledge that they've never ceded sovereignty to this land that they've cared for many thousands of years. We in DCAN are committed to working alongside First Nations people as we face the climate emergency and work our way towards hopefully a safe and sustainable future. Let me just say a word or two about DCAN. We're a local, non-party political community group that has been getting on for 15 years now. We have thousands of supporters across Darebin and beyond. And we work to educate ourselves and the community about the climate emergency and about the need for really speedy, large-scale action if we are going to avoid climate catastrophe, and to try to ensure a safe future for our kids and our grandkids. A number of DCAN members have been instrumental in making today's event happen, and I'd like to extend my thanks to all of them. And particularly to Karen Large, who has done a lot of the work for this. I also want to give very heartfelt thanks to Kay Wenigol, who has been working as the community facilitator for this event and has put in uncountable hours in letting everybody in our community know about it and in helping to organise the event. I also want to express thanks to Darebin Council, which provided us with a community grant, which allowed us to do the organising work. That's been fantastic. And Katie Daly and Natalie Jamison from among the council staff who are here today have supported the project in many ways. You'll have noticed that this event has been promoted as a Darebin and / Northern Melbourne event because Yarra Council, Merribeck Council have also been very involved and supportive, so thanks to them as well. And I also want to express our thanks to Bundoora Secondary School for making this, secondary college, for making this venue available for us. I think you'll agree it's a terrific site to be having this, and so it's also great that their hospitality students providing coffee and a sausage sizzle. If you haven't got one yet, make sure you register and get your stamp and get them later. I'd also like to thank Stav Shaw, who's providing the music today. If you haven't listened to her, it's really worth just having a sit outside there and having a listen. And I suspect I've missed some people who deserve recognition too. And then, of course, there are the good folks from the Good Car Company. Cass has worked really closely with us all throughout this campaign, and a number of the others you're going to be hearing from today and chatting to later. But it's been great working with a company that shares our determination to speed up our transition off fossil fuels and to help us move to a safe climate future. So we have not only the people from the Good Car Company, but a number of EV ambassadors and experts in other roles that you're going to be hearing about to learn everything you can possibly want to know about EVs. Just coming back to DCAN for a minute, outside you'll have noticed we have a table with all sorts of information. If any of you are interested in signing up to receive our monthly newsletter dispatch, that would be great. And also our current project is, of course, the state election, making sure we get a government which is as committed to urgent action on the climate crisis as we can. So if you happen to live in Northcote and if you're interested in helping us deliver scorecards which rate all our candidates on their climate policies, do come to the table and let us know. We'd love to have all the help we can. So I think that's all I really need to say, but I know that Katie from Darebin Council, Taryn from Yarra Council and Donna from Merribeck want to just say a quick word about the climate-related events that they have planned and going on. So one of the three of you, please. Here comes Katie.
There are just a lot of programs that are available through the three councils and from the state to help people access solar, to go all electric, to transition their homes to make their homes more energy efficient. So come see us if you have questions. If you happen to live in Darebin, the big program we have going right now is Solar Saver. There's two different streams with the Solar Saver program. You can either, if you qualify, there's some qualifying criteria. You can get a solar system installed with no money down, and then you pay that off through your rates, and you will be able to generate more income than you pay out in rates. So it's a great program. The parallel program we have going up Book Buy as well for solar. So if you're thinking about getting an electric car and you don't have solar yet, it makes such good sense to go solar and make it even more economical. Yeah, so come see us. We can talk to you about the programs. I don't know, Donna or Taryn, if you want to say anything else. And thanks all for coming, and we really appreciate seeing all these great faces. So thank you. Oh yeah, and I should say, sign up for Sustainable Darebin as well from Council if you're a Darebin resident. And
hi everyone. What a fantastic day. I can't believe the weather. It's just so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming today. It's amazing to be here spreading the word and enthusiasm about electric vehicles with such an engaged community, amazing community organisation, DCAN, and councils who really want to collaborate with communities to make this transition happen. My name is Cass, and I've been facilitating community programs with the Good Car Company. And I'm here with some of my team members from Good Car Company today, Alex and Jess and Murray. Please take advantage of these guys being here today. What we want to do today is start a conversation about electric vehicles and help everybody learn more towards making their decision to transition to electric. So by now, I imagine all of us have a story that relates directly to the impacts of climate change. And I was going to start with a personal story, but I still can't actually talk about it without getting quite emotional. But I live in the Northern Rivers, and everyone knows what happened up there on the 28th of February this year. And as we speak, we know that there are other towns in New South Wales underwater at the moment. And last week there were towns underwater in Victoria. And 2 years before now, we were all surrounded by rings of fire. So it's here right now. The scale of the disaster in the Northern Rivers was immeasurably destructive. And a lot of people I know are still moving from house to house to house, or camping in their backyards, or just dealing with a completely destroyed home. So the immediacy of the need for action at all levels, including the personal household level, is here. It's clear and present right now. So who are we, the Good Car Company? And what are we about? Well, we're about this. We're about empowering individuals and communities to take climate action into their own hands and helping households do one of the most powerful things you can do, which is change your transport over to electric. And we're doing it in two different ways. Excuse me. The first way is by removing two of the strongest barriers to people deciding to buy an electric car: affordability and availability of electric vehicles. And my teammates are going to talk more about that later. And the other way we do it is by collaborating with communities like this to enable EV uptake at scale in local areas. The Good Car Company was started almost 4 years ago by 3 environmental scientists. There's a picture of them over there. Anton, Sam and Anthony. They were dismayed by the lack of climate action being taken by the previous government, and so they got together and started talking about what are we going to do, and they started mucking around with cars, trying to build and make their own electric vehicle, and realised that that was a bit too hard. So they started learning how to import them and how to get them more cheaply so that more people would be able to afford an electric car. And they brought some over and they got snapped up by people in their community in Hobart, and pretty soon they delivered the first electric vehicle bulk buy in Australia, in the world probably. They brought 24 cars over, and all 24 cars are now driving around in new households in Hobart. So we want to make electric vehicles accessible and affordable so that everyone can switch. We know that having as many EVs on the road as possible, as soon as possible, will have an immediate impact on climate change. Every electric vehicle saves 2.7 tonnes of carbon emissions. So, for example, the 40 EVs that are on their way to the Northern Rivers after one of our recent community bulk buys, which did go ahead post-flood, will remove 108 tonnes of carbon emissions from local roads every year in that area. Yeah, so what can we do in this community? How ready are we? How can we help to make this uptake of EVs locally in this community happen more easily for you? With a whole bunch of new big batteries on wheels driving around on local roads and parked in local driveways, it opens up a whole lot of future possibilities for storing and sharing energy locally as well. So the other opportunities that are coming from community-wide uptake of EVs are still on their way, and that is a part of the Good Car Company's longer-term and grander vision as well. The more people driving EVs as well in local areas, the more the government will sit up and notice and provide the charging infrastructure we need, and the roll-on impacts will have. We'll just continue to increase when it comes to the decarbonisation outcomes. So we're here to help you with this transition. We've got the basics covered. We bring in affordable cars, and what today is about is enabling you all to have the conversations that you want to have with electric vehicle owners, and with our expert team members who can help you on the way to making some kind of decision. And so without further ado, I would now like to introduce Alex, who is going to talk to you about some of the key questions people always have about charging and range in an electric vehicle, and also about the cars of our community bulk buy.
Alex.
Thanks everyone for coming. So I'm just going to briefly talk about charging your cars and range, which are two of the biggest questions most people have when they're first thinking about their car. And really the first question is about range, because people want to know how far they can go on their battery size, and what do I do if I can't pull into the service station and get some petrol in 5 minutes. And that question about range, really, you've all heard of range anxiety, I'm sure. That question about range really dictates the type of car that might be used for you, and how far you can go in your EV and where you can take it, and which model you might choose from the cars we have and other EV offerings. And so on the range question, it really depends on the size of the battery, of course. They scale up from 24 kilowatts to 62 in the Nissan Leafs, and this will determine how many kilometres you can get on a single charge of the battery. But you need to start thinking about the battery size not as a single-use option, and you can only go that far, but incorporating charging into your daily routines. So the first question I often put to people is to think about what is your daily commute and your weekly commute, because they need to be really easy and not to think about it. So if you live in the inner north of Melbourne and you're just driving around town to school, to work, going shopping, going to the farmer's market, and you only do 20, 40 kilometres a day, you can buy a small Nissan Leaf and you can drive all day. You've still got enough battery. Plug it in overnight like you do with your phone or your laptop, and you're good to go. Don't even worry about it. Briefly, I'll introduce the charger that comes with your car on that point. Straight to the front of a Nissan Leaf, plug it into the car, and overnight, plug it in to where your phone goes, or your toaster, or your vacuum cleaner. Hopefully you've got one in the driveway, but if not, put one in. And this is about 4.5 metres long, and so it'll go from the front of your car into any 10-amp wall socket at your house. So already, as soon as you get a car and you drive it home, you can plug it in and charge it, and forget about it. So charging is not some scary foreign object and some impossible to decode and understand. There are multiple options, and we can talk about those outside. But to start with, we supply you with this, and you can just plug it in and go to bed. And you've all got mobile phones and laptops. The car battery works in a similar fashion, so get into that habit, And don't forget that charging as well is not only overnight or, a really big thing to get worried about all the time. You go out for lunch sometimes or to work and you plug in your phone, you can do that with your car. There's also incidental charging. So we went out for dinner last night and we were going to Preston, we got some noodles, we drove our car, we pulled into the library and we plugged in for an hour and we charged battery while we had some food. So you can integrate the charging into your life like that as well. If you stop into the petrol station, you can stop into a charging station. So on that note, I'm just going to walk over here. Got some really useful tools for you thinking about the relationship with your batteries. So whether you want a 24 kilowatt or you want a really big range battery like a 62 kilowatt for your big road trips and that kind of thing. Two of the most useful apps and websites that we use, PlugShare and a Better Route Planner, this one's called. So PlugShare is a user-generated system, and everybody who's come across a charging station, whether it's a wall socket or a fast charger or a Type 2 charger across town, will plug it into this website. So you can go on your phone right now, access PlugShare, and look at the closest charger. A Better Route Planner is really useful for your big long road trips. So this is great around town. We used it last night to find the Darebin the charger in Preston at the library. And a Better Route Planner is fantastic for planning your big road trips. So I spoke to a customer the other day who has a daughter in Melbourne and she lives in Canberra. She plugged her journey in with a Better Route Planner and she can determine the length of the journey and it will factor in how often you need to stop to charge. So for her example, she's only got a 30 kilowatt. So those of you afraid of getting a small battery and not making a big road trip in time, she drove from Torrens in Canberra all the way down to Melbourne. 11.5 hours it took her, and that included 2.5 hours of charging time. So the journey itself is not greatly increased by stopping and charging. So those of you who are worried about, I can only afford a small battery, but what if I want to go and visit somebody out in Woodend or something? That's 80 kilometres away, and there's a fast charger there. So the way the two charging systems work is a good way to think about relating your weekly journey and your small commute around Melbourne for 40 kilometres, and maybe you need to go 200 kilometres on a road trip once a year, once a month, whatever it may be. You can factor in the charging. So if you stop and do a fast charger, you can charge the smallest kilowatt battery in 1 hour. So you can get 200 kilometres an hour on a charger, on a fast charger, so using a Better Route Planner. If you go home and plug in with a little charger over there and overnight, you'll get about 12 kilometres of charging. So charging doesn't have to be some scary thing, and neither does range. The trick is to swap from the quick nature of petrol to factoring time to your journeys. So we can talk about battery sizes and range outside as well, and specific to your needs. But if you're thinking, I'm just going to ride around town Melbourne, you can get a smaller car. You don't always have to buy a big car because charging is readily available already in Melbourne, and often it's free. So we charged last night for free. So it's really useful that way. So I might just briefly talk about the cars we have. I won't go into too much detail. There's a lot of information on the back info wall down there where you signed up. You can see each picture of the car. But not only that, come and talk to us. We're out there with the cars. We've got our ambassadors with cars, and they will give you real-world examples of how these cars work, whether they've got the smaller AZO model or the bigger ZE1 with the bigger batteries. Maybe someone's got a van. I know there's an ambassador here with a van. Talk to him about how he uses it in his daily life. So I'll briefly talk about the models, but we can have a good chat outside about it. So the first two smaller battery sizes we have come in the car model. It's called an AZO. It's the one with the little bug eyes out the front. And these are the smaller first cars we got. So they have a 24 kilowatt battery and a 30 kilowatt battery. So they're perfect for zipping around Japan, and now they're perfect for driving around Melbourne. So they'll get you all of your daily commutes around the city. Even if you're going to visit your rich friends in Toorak, it's not that far away. You can charge on the way. They can pay for it. They got heaps of money, don't worry about it. if you're needing the big batteries, so factor in, go on, before you choose the biggest model battery in the big car, go on PlugShare, go on a better route planner and see if you can't make your journey. You can go all the way down to Mornington on the 24 kilowatt battery, and even further, you just stop in at a fast charger for 20 minutes and your battery will be full. So don't just think you can't go anywhere on your small battery. The next two car models up are the ZE1s. They come with the bigger batteries, slightly different body shape. You'll see them out the front, particularly the nice yellow one. It's a really good looker. And they just have bigger batteries and a few different features. But all that info as well, have a look detailed on the wall down there with all of the information about the cars. And then the other two models we have are the vans. So we've got a Nissan van, which is great for the inner city tradie. I was talking to a florist earlier who might be suitable for her business. You can fit a pallet in the back, or it's great maybe to convert to a small camper van. And then if you're a commercial operator and you want a big van, the Peugeot is the next size up. Much bigger battery, bigger cargo, bigger load capacity and towing capacity. So we can talk about that outside as well. So I'll leave it at that, so you don't get overloaded with information. We'll be outside, all the info's out in the cars. And I might hand over to Don briefly, who is a legend and an EV owner, so which makes him a legend. So.
I feel as though now I have to tap dance or perform some amazing routine if I'm a legend. So yes, I'm not from the Good Car Company, I'm a volunteer, so an EV ambassador. I've got a vintage electric car in terms of the modern electric car era. My 2011, so ZE0, AZE, so you don't even need to know and care about that. 2011 was when it came to Australia. It's one of the first 50 electric cars that were registered in Victoria, so it really is a vintage car. I came to acquire it in 2014 when it finished its life as the Victorian Government's electric vehicle trial. So it had its first 3 years of life tearing around different councils and that sort of stuff, giving people a lived experience of using an electric car. I live in a house that's got solar. I have started out 6 years of the life of my car was charged via a power point. I now have a charging point on the wall. So I actually jokingly say to people when they ask me the question of how long does it take for me to charge the car, and I say about 10 seconds, because that's all it takes for me to unplug from the wall and plug into the car, because I really don't think about it that much. The only times I do think about it is on some of these longer trips that I go off, and yes, PlugShare, I can say, yeah, that's really quite a good app. Haven't used a better route planner as much, but my car is vintage, it can't do the range, and so I can't plan big 200 kilometre trips. But saying that, I've chosen a lifestyle that 99% of my trips are more than capable within this particular car's battery range. A quick little statement about maintenance. I took my car to the Nissan dealer and was enjoying picking it up and listening to the stories of the people in front of me picking up their car and flipping through the sheets and saying, you know, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, and there's, you know, $400, $500 or whatever, thank you very much. Mine, when they came to me standing up to the front, the guy went, we changed your windscreen wiper blades. It really is a different experience. Cleaning the car yesterday, there's hardly any brake dust on the wheels. So brake dust, you're hardly using your brakes at all. It's just a completely different experience. Come and talk to me. You know, I've had a car for 8 years. I know what it's like. I know about range anxiety. I can talk you through all of that sort of stuff. So hopefully, yeah, come and kick the tyres with me and have a laugh, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I'd like to introduce Julian Petty, who is an auto electrician and who has worked with electric vehicles for years and years, and who is going to talk to you today about another one of our extremely frequent questions, which is around the servicing and maintenance of electric vehicles. Thanks, Julian.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Julian Petty. I've been working with the Good Car Company for the past three and a half years as one of their technical specialists. My role within the company is to provide service, maintenance, technical know-how to all of the vehicles which are brought in straight off the ship. So my lucky role, quite possibly one of the easiest roles within the company, is to check over each of the cars before it's onto its lucky owners, I go through a very comprehensive list of checks, things such as batteries, brakes, brake fluid, washer fluid, wiper blades, all of these very, very high-end technical things. So, as I'm sure all of us have experienced at some point in time, some fairly expensive car, motorcycle service costs. I certainly have in the past. And one of the things that I can say for certain, as somebody who's been working with these things for so long, is just how reliable and simple these cars have been designed to be. So looking at the amount of money that you look to spend within a 6 to 12 month period, every car has got tyres, every car has got wheels. So it's always a good idea to have regular alignments, tyre checks, because these are still consumable items with any car. Making sure that your alignment is dead on, because we're looking for efficiency here. Brakes, as we've talked about, these vehicles are very heavy on regenerative braking, so instead of using just your brake pads to slow the cars down, it'll actually use the car's electric motor to put charge back into the batteries. So in terms of consumable costs, you're really looking at things like brake pads over a very long period of time, things like tyres, fairly heavy cars in the front. We've got batteries, they're front wheel drive, but yeah, there's really not a lot that goes wrong with them, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with so many Nissan Leafs coming through the docks, and to just see the high quality of the cars that come through. So I'm very lucky to have such an easy job, making sure that every car is perfect as it comes through. I've got lots of EV experience over the last few years, so any questions about Polestar, Tesla, even some sort of handmade stuff which we're seeing going around these days, more than happy to come and talk to us later on. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be working with the Good Car Company, because these are fantastic cars to work on, and yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Julian, what would you say would be an approximate annual cost of servicing an electric vehicle?
Yeah, definitely. So if you were doing lesser Ks, you probably look at having an alignment tyre inspection every sort of 12 months. But if you were looking at, let's say, I think average amount of kilometres that most people would do a year if commuting, you're looking at about 20,000 Ks a year, you'd be looking at the cost of a tyre inspection and a wheel alignment. So I've had them done as cheaply as about $69, $79 for an alignment check. But then looking at things like your cabin filters, general brake and suspension system checks, I'd probably look to budget about between $150 and $250, depending on wiper blades, cabin filters if you're in dusty or remote areas, and just other things like that. So yeah, there's no spark plugs, there's no fuel pumps. They're expensive, so.
Thank you.
No worries at all.
Thanks, Julian. I can see there's lots of keen questions already popping up. What we'll do is we'll finish what we need to talk about, and then we're actually going to open this up for a good Q&A session. So if it's okay, we'll save questions until afterwards, and it won't be much longer. I'd like to introduce you to Jess now, my other teammate at Good Car. And she's going to talk to you about the community EV bulk buy and how you can get involved.
Okay, so it's really important to us here at the Good Car Company that we are supplying quality, safe and good cars, because, you know, it's in the name. So every vehicle that we look at auction in Japan goes through a selection process. So we run diagnostics on the batteries. We have standards for battery state of health, the amount of Ks on the car, as well as the general condition. So that's all done before we even bring the vehicles into Australia. When they arrive here, they actually inspected and approved by the government to be driven on Australian roads. And it also is improving the living conditions in your suburb, and who doesn't want that? You know, a lot quieter and a lot cleaner, fresh air and silent streets, it's what we want. Okay, so what happens from here? So everybody who has registered for this bulk buy will be receiving information via email, so please make sure you read them. And you'll be getting a community participation voucher of $1,000. So that's effectively a discount code that you'll be able to use on any of the cars that we have for sale on our website. We, as you might have heard, have been lucky enough to score some amazing investment funding from Boundless Earth, and this has allowed us to recently make our largest purchase of leaves, which are being uploaded right now. So you guys are super lucky because you're going to have more options, more colour choices, more variety than any other bulk buy. So the bulk buy is going to run for 1 month, so it's going to be open for a little while. We're going to continue to be adding cars to our website in that time. So if you don't see the perfect colour now, it might be coming. So if you see the perfect colour now, though, jump onto it because you know what we get, we can't guarantee that we'll get again. So every car is individual, just like you. Okay, and if we get, let me turn the page because I want to get these numbers right. If we get 20 or more people purchase an EV from this bulk buy, on top of that $1,000 community participation voucher, we're also going to be sending everybody a $500 charge card. So that's, you know, as it sounds, it's a card that you can use instead of paying for charge on the charging stations that are not free. That's actually the equivalent of 6,000 kilometres of driving. I'm not sure about you, but that's more than half a year's worth for me. So pretty good value there. So the key to participating is to keep an eye on your email inbox, and we also, the cars that we've bought with us that are our cars, they're actually going to be staying in the community for the next month as well. So we are offering test rides today, but there will be other opportunities for further driving, and we're going to be emailing you about that as well. We'll try not to spam you too much with all this stuff. The other thing, we've been really busy, that I want to tell you all about is we're just about to launch a part of the business which is going to be offering novated leasing through us. So if you work for somebody who offers novated leasing, then you're going to be able to buy new Polestars and new Teslas through the Good Car. And the savings are massive, especially on the eve of the government announcing fringe benefit tax exemptions. It can be upwards of $10,000 savings a year just by novated, like salary sacrificing, novated leasing a EV. So we're really, really excited to be to bringing that to everybody. So there'll be more information. And if you don't have that available to you now, but you think that your employer might be interested in offering it, we're actually going to be able to help with that. So we're all set up to have those conversations and provide that support to your employer. So if you think that they're keen, let us know, let me know. This has been my own personal project and I'm super excited about it, if you can't tell. So come and talk to us and we can help make that happen. The other thing that we also have is we do have 2 finance partners. So we don't offer in-house finance, but we can direct you to some pretty good ones. So that's through Bright and through Plenty. So they can help you if you need a car loan to get into an EV. And I think that's about it from me.
Thank you, Jess. So, questions. We've got a roving mic. I'd like to invite everybody, if you have a question, to just keep it to one question. And we will aim to get to you throughout this Q&A session. And we're all here to answer your questions. And I would also like to introduce Andrew Pam over here in the audience. He's one of our EV ambassadors and he's super active in AEVA, Australian Electric Vehicle Association, and can answer a lot of your more technical questions.
Hello. So you just mentioned the novated leases. I'm not sure if you know yet, but there's quite a few other electric cars coming to the market maybe soon, like the Renault E308 and I think the Cooper Born. Are you planning on sort of expanding the novated lease from the Teslas and Polestars? Because the Teslas and Polestars are quite high in the range of cost.
Yeah, so we are talking to manufacturers all the time, and especially now that we've paved the way with Polestar and Tesla, we would love to be able to offer more. I can't say too much more about it until it's all in place, but please keep an eye out on our newsletter for more information.
Sorry.
Thank you for the presentation. Just two quick ones. Firstly, roughly how many cars do you have currently in your bank? And approximately what would be the age of the cars that you've got to offer?
So I think currently on the website we have about 20 cars listed, but we just approved another 55 cars in the last 2 weeks, which is our biggest purchase ever, thanks to Boundless. So that will mean that in the coming 2 to 4 weeks, we'll list those 50 cars. So that's the current stock, and we will always be buying more cars and bringing more cars in. So we'll have plenty of opportunity for you to buy the right car. I've already forgotten the second question. Thank you. So with the two different models, I didn't really go into much detail, but with the AZEO, that's the older models. With the ZE1s, with the larger batteries, they're much newer. We range from 2018, no?
2016, 2018.
Jules is going to answer this question. Just so you know, when I don't know something, I ring Jules. So go to Jules first.
My phone doesn't stop. I enjoy it, it's great. So for the AZE Zeros, the early body shape, you're looking at about 2011 onwards up to about 2016. So the curvier shaped ones with the 24 or the 30 kilowatt hour batteries, you're looking at up to about 2015, 2016. The newer body shape stuff, you're looking at about, I really should have read this up beforehand. So your newer stuff, you're looking at 2017 onwards, and a lot of those vehicles, depending on how they're configured, will come with all sorts of awesome stuff like automatic braking, lane assist, lane guidance, all of that. So they are quite a modern package for the money that you're looking to spend. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Partially. Just with the older models,
yes.
Do any of them have battery upgrades, or are all the batteries that age as well?
So I believe 99% of the cars that would come through would have the original batteries and components still in them. The vehicles that are selected for importation have to satisfy a minimum quality of battery and components. So everything that comes across, I believe, has a pretty high-end battery health rating. In terms of being able to change batteries, there are constant developments going on in that area at the moment.
Might get Jess to answer that one too. Or
I'll pass on to Jess for that one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's a question that we get quite a bit is can I upgrade my battery, and what happens when the battery is not doing what I want it to do? So there's a little bit to this. So the first one is, can you change a battery in a Nissan Leaf? The answer is yes, you can. It's done pretty easily. It takes about 4 hours to do. The biggest problem that we have with it is actually getting the batteries. So at the moment, we source our batteries from cars that have been crashed and not sustained structural damage. But there are manufacturers of batteries and they're in the process of becoming, readily available. It's not available right now. So that is something that we're going to be able to see in the future. And obviously, aftermarket battery suppliers are going to be far cheaper than buying them from the car manufacturers from Nissan. So can it be done? Yes. A 24 kilowatt hour battery can be swapped out for a 30 kilowatt hour battery. They fit, and it's something that the guys have done. But yeah, it's not like you can't just walk into Repco and grab one at the moment. So when it comes to what happens to my battery in the future, so the Nissan batteries naturally degrade just the same as any other piece of equipment by roughly about 3% a year. So it's not very much, it's only a handful of kilometres from your range. So if in 10, 15 years time that car's no longer doing what you want it to do, there's a few things you can do. Firstly, as we know, short range EVs still have a place. We have a lot of people who are happy to drive something that has a lower range because they don't drive very far. And with the charging, like what Alex was talking about before. But if a car in the distant future does get to a point where that battery is no longer useful as a car battery, then it still actually has quite a lot of life in it. And there are already companies, I think there's even one here in Melbourne, who are then turning them into static storage for house batteries. And in the even further distant future, when they no longer are useful for that, at the moment, and I'm sure it'll be even better later on, 98% of a car battery can be recycled. So so these have a long life, and lots of uses beyond just driving.
Just that one thing. Just as on the year of models that we import, while Jules is absolutely correct that we have 2012s, we are moving forward and having pretty much only 2016 or actually younger models, so later in the years going forward. So you won't see too many old cars on the stock list. But as Jules said as well, the minimum battery health we import is 75%, which gives you heaps of life left. And the only other point I wanted to make for you with solar or those thinking about going solar is all of the Nissan Leafs, as they're imported from Japan, have the vehicle to home and the vehicle to grid capability within the car itself. Now this is a complicated topic, we'll talk about it outside further when you're interested, and the technology is coming, but in the car itself, no matter even if you bought the first Leaf off the rank, 2012, it still has that capability in it if it's from Japan. So those of you buying older models, 2011, those older models still have that capability. So don't be too stuck on the years. It's more about the battery health and state of health for you for your kilometres and the condition of the car and if you like the colour.
Hi. My question's about the tyres. So I understand you change all the tyres as the vehicle comes in, and I'm not sure why, but also are they electric vehicle tyres? Because I'm hearing that's a thing too. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. So there are a couple of different variations on your sort of standard passenger vehicle tyres. My experience with Tesla, Michelin made a variation of the tyre which was a low noise. The tyre itself was identical to a standard Michelin of that model, but they had a piece of foam stuck to the inside of the tyre, so very high tech. Anything of decent quality, it doesn't have to be an EV rated tyre. There are a multitude of high quality manufacturers that make good tyres. Something that's going to be eco-friendly but also not too cheap because safety is paramount, would be totally fine. And to answer your previous question about why we changed the tyres, Japan has different seasonal elements that they would experience compared to us. So they often have snow, ice and a lot of salt on the road as a result of trying to make their roads safer in the winter time. The grade of tyres that they use, a number of ones that I see come through are actually an all-terrain but made for a passenger vehicle. So they've got lots of little cuts in the tyres to get as much grip as possible on the road. They're a bit noisier and quite frankly not really suitable for Australian roads. So unless you were going up to Mount Hotham or Mount Buller, in the winter times, a tyre like that would be less efficient and noisier than putting something new and something more aimed around Australian roads. So that's why we changed them across. So, yeah.
Hello, I've got a question about batteries as well. And this is just about the conditions in Australia with temperature and the battery, specifically the Nissan battery.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. Could you talk about that? Just in terms of what I've read in terms of overheating. in hot temperatures?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pass over to Jess, and I'll help where I can.
Fill in the gaps. Okay, so I guess it touches on a wider thing of what can we do to look after our batteries, or what can affect our batteries. So when we're talking about temperature, really high temperatures and really low temperatures over a long period of time can contribute to battery degradation. So that can add to your battery dropping those percentages every year. So that can be if a car is sitting at 40 degrees in 40 degree heat day in, day out for a really long period of time, or if it's sitting in like minus 10 day in, day out, and that doesn't even happen even to us in Tassie. So most of Australia, is in a zone where the batteries are going to be happy and not contribute too heavily to the battery degrading in those sort of temperatures. Things that you can do: park in the shade. If you've got a garage or a carport, utilise that. It all helps. The other part of it as well is when it comes to charging, there are things that you can do to look after your battery there as well. So the very best way that you can charge is with our cord. Slow and steady wins the race. Trickle charging or slow charging looks after your battery the best. Also, not depleting the car all the way down, and not charging and leaving it sitting plugged in really high. So if you can sort of have them between 20% and 80%, and the car does tell you, then that's the ideal. Also, rather than doing like big charging, if you can do little bits. So if you go out to dinner like we did last night and there's a charger, take advantage of it. Little charges rather than big long ones over time will help look after your battery.
There's another question up the back.
Yeah, I would like to ask you whether, basically I'm thinking of hiring a higher range battery when I want to take a long drive, let's say to Wodonga or Bundoora. Yeah, but I don't want to I don't want to replace my you call it, old time battery, what you call it? The heritage car battery, for example. I don't want to change it because I'm a type of person who don't want to throw things away. And I want to use it, as much as possible. So is there a chance for us to hire a larger range battery when we want to take a long, the country visit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are websites where you can hire just electric cars, mostly Polestars and Teslas, and also Hertz are hiring Polestars exclusively. So there are places where you can hire an electric car for those longer trips, and it is one of the things that we recommend thinking about. If you can do 99% of your yearly driving with a smaller battery Leaf, and then get something a bit longer range for those longer trips. It's a really, really good option.
Did you want to say something, Andrew?
Yeah, two things. First of all, the Tesla Drivers Association has a Tesla renting facility. You can go there and you can rent a Tesla, which is ideal for long road trips. The other thing is, technologically, there has been some research into range extenders. There are companies who are working on a trailer you can hire with an extra battery in it. That is not yet available in Australia, but it is a technology that is being developed. So that is potentially an option that might come on the market.
Be awesome for a camper van.
There was a question over here and then over the other side.
With the advertised or suggested ranges for vehicles on a long trip, and that's something we would need to do periodically, to what extent does your cruising speed impact on the range of the battery?
Yeah, so driving style does have a big effect on batteries. So if you're going to drive like a hoon, it's going to cost you in range. You'll laugh, but it's tempting. They go really well, so it can be tempting to put the foot down. Also, when it comes to terrain, up and down hills, that does affect your range as well. Interestingly, you've got to flip your mindset when it comes to efficiency compared to petrol cars. So you'll get more range around town than what you will on the highway. On our website, each of our cars has a range quoted. That's actually taking into consideration the battery state of health and the age of the car. So unlike some manufacturers where they are quoting figures that real life driving are not really seeing, we actually are a little bit on the conservative side with the ranges that we quote so that you don't end up disappointed.
The only other thing to remember is a better route planner over there. So, and it answers the first question and all the questions about range and battery, is to check before, you might be going, unless you're going remote, there's a chance there's a fast charger on your journey and you can make the jumps between fast chargers. So that example of driving to Canberra to Melbourne, it's only 2.5 extra hours to charge the whole way and it's costing you 1/4 of your petrol costs. So the same thing, check on those two websites first before you buy a huge battery that you may not need the rest of the year, like Jess was saying, and you may get away with smaller ones. And the great thing about a better route planner is you can select your car model, so you can choose a Nissan Leaf AZEO or a ZE1, the battery size, you can choose a Tesla as well, and it will also factor in the topography. So if you're going up and down hills, it will say you can only go this amount on a 90% charge, and then you'll have to pull into X charging station and recharge. So jump on those two websites first, and Jules will help my answer to be better.
Actually, this is a little bit less technical, but also considering having to spend a little bit extra time during a trip to Canberra or Mildura, it gives you time to enjoy local communities and areas that are around. So there's actually a lot of money that's been put into setting up destination charges in certain remote areas that are places worth going to, that are beautiful, interesting, vibrant towns that a lot of people would not usually even think about if you could do 1,000 Ks on a tank. So this is definitely something that I've experienced as well in some places that I never would have even known about had I not had to stop for an hour and a half and go for a wander. So there are some sort of flip side benefits to having to take your time. So yeah.
And on that note, the cost is 1/4 of the petrol. So pull into a charging station, pay for it, and treat yourself to some sweet snacks. Whatever you're into.
I think he's getting hungry.
So just as a real example of a vehicle we have out there, the big Peugeot van has a 75 kilowatt battery in it. Its highway range, driving down the Pacific Highway, is 240 kilometres, and its town range, driving around town, is 350 kilometres. And I've driven that van around town and had experiences where I've actually gained range because of the regenerative braking.
Yay!
Just another quick little anecdote. My first drive of my car up to the top of Mount Dandenong was a bit of a range anxiety experience. Got up the top of the hill, suddenly realised, hey, it wasn't saying that I had enough room to turn around. Luckily I was having lunch, meeting mum and dad up there who'd come with my sister, popped them in the back of the car, extra ballast, downhill, charged, got home, no worries. Just change your thinking is what I'm saying. It's well and truly possible.
We might move on to the next question.
It was just another one over here.
Oh, where we are? We're over there.
So the CCS and the Tesla supercharger seem to be becoming the fast charge default networks. What's your impression of the CHAdeMO network? Is it going to be expanding or being wound back, given that the Nissan Leafs rely on the CHAdeMO network? What's your impression of that network expanding?
It's a great question. I've just read an article about this. In America, it's bad news, but for us, it doesn't look to be so dire. We don't really know the answer, but from what I'm reading, they're not going to remove the old chargers in any sort of fast capacity. By the time, if they do upgrade them and replace them, we will have many adapters to suit those swap overs. So currently, that charger over there that I showed you before obviously goes from your car to your house. But if you want to pull into a Type 2 charger, a CCS charger, you can buy an adapter and it will change the front of your one. So there is currently an adapter lead, whether it's an adapter or a cord itself, from the front of the Nissan Leaf to any charger you need to, except a dedicated first model Tesla one. So you can't stop at a Tesla charger, but every other charger you can stop at and use those leads. And so if you wait 2 years, you'll probably have an adapter for every single charger out there. So I wouldn't worry about it.
I'll take that.
If you want to look at one of those adapters, I've got one in the boot of my car.
I think we'll got time for maybe 3 more questions and then we'll need to wrap it up.
I live in Thornbury, we have a shared driveway.
4 questions.
We have a shared driveway which is really difficult to pull into, so we'd rely on charging our car by hooking the lead across our footpath. And I'm wondering, from a council perspective or otherwise, am I going to be fined constantly? Or, you know, if I just throw a mat over the lead, is that going to work? And also, are you getting wagons online, if there's a quick answer? And also...
No, one question, sorry. We've got people waiting.
Well, I don't work for council, nor do I live in Melbourne, but you do have to talk to your local councils and find out. There are ways to do it, you know, with those lead coverings and safety installations like that. I've heard of someone who borrowed their neighbour's driveway and they ran the lead across. You can get dedicated charging boxes and put them on the side, but you will have to talk to local council about curbside charging. But don't forget that you don't have to pay for the charging.
And there are 3 solutions that are underway. One of them is curbside charging. There are companies making pop-up chargers and chargers that go into lampposts, so the council needs to commit to that. Secondly, there are companies that provide solutions for your house where there's 2 solutions. One of them is you can put a cut into the pavement and embed an extension lead into the pavement if the council permits it, so that you can actually have a charging socket with a key that you own. So it's your key for your personal socket that pops up and that make it a very small cut into the concrete sidewalk. And the final one is a tuck that swings out from the upper story of your house. And so it's an arm that comes out from your house and the cable goes over the pavement and above pedestrians' heads. So
wow, that's
those are available in England, and something like that might be available in Australia as well. Check with your local council.
Awesome. Or check with Andrew.
Excuse me. Port Melbourne's already approved that currently.
I think my question's been partially answered by that gentleman there, but I'll ask it anyway. When charging outside your home, is there a locking mechanism on the charging cable to ensure that passers-by don't pull it out of the car or the socket?
Yes.
Yes.
For any time, anywhere you plug in your car, it will lock. So out in public and at home, it will always be locked.
I want to ask about the tyres. So there is no spare wheel in the cars, and people may not be aware of this. So if you get a puncture, what happens? And especially if you get a puncture where you're in a bit of a remote area where, you know, RACV might not be readily accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so the first point's actually not entirely true. There are a number of cars that do come through with spare tyres. So the earlier AZE Zeros will have a space saver. Yours doesn't have one? Okay. So I've seen a number of the earlier cars that have a space saver tyre mounted underneath the boot. So the cars are capable of carrying a spare tyre. All of the vehicles that are sold will include a puncture repair kit. So there's a little back left cubby hole in the boot of the car. It'll come with depending on the vehicle, a little compressor, a can of the tyre inflation goo, and then if that can't solve the problem, you've also got roadside as well. So whether it be an EV or not, roadside's always a great thing to have. But yeah, it's in that aspect, just like any other car. So.
Last question, thank you. I might just add a little bit to that. We have a video that we send all our owners on how to use the tyre inflation kit, and also from a practical point of view, it's heaps easier to use than lifting a big heavy tyre, the fear of having to jack up your car. So even though it's something that you might not be used to, from a practical point of view, they're really simple to use.
Yeah, I've used one there.
Our question's about safety. We've got teenage sons coming into driving years and wondering about the different Leaf models and what the safety features are. What would you recommend for like a 16 to 18-year-old guy?
Which one do you reckon? So all our Nissan Leafs have a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, which is the highest rating that you can get. Some of the cheaper, earlier model ones only have 2 airbags, but we do have models in both the body shapes that have up to 10 airbags. And also when it comes to the ZE1, which is the newer shape, then they have Pro Pilot, which is adaptive cruise control and bumps you into the lane if you happen to glance at your phone, and all those sorts of features as well. So they're very, they've got a lot of the latest safety features when it comes to those sorts of things, but I'm glad that it's not me with teenage boys having to put them on the road.
I'm one of your investors and I'm a driving instructor. I teach in Leaf for brand new drivers.
Yes.
Come and talk to you about that safety. My take-home answer is use eco mode. Do it off-road to start with.
Oh yeah. So they have an eco mode which slows them down. Definitely the button must be on for those ones.
It slows them down and they get more range out of it, which I'll be keen on. Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. I know there must be a lot more questions, and the good news is we are all here for the next 2 hours for you to talk to. I know that people's situations are individual and personal, and you probably have more questions and want to have a conversation about your personal situation. I'd like to just ask all of our EV ambassadors to stand up right now, please. We have these amazing people who've volunteered their time today. They've all brought their cars. We have in the display area, we have a Peugeot van, 2 AZEOs, the smaller model. We've got a ZE1, the 40 kilowatt Nissan Leaf, and another electric car. We're driven by, owned by Lindsay up the back. We have lots of people and EV owners for you to talk to. We also have a couple of 4 EVs taking people on short test rides around the local area. First in, first serve for that. Just go and line up, hop in the next car and off you go. And please make sure you've got your stamp for registering so you can grab a coffee. Hopefully they fixed the coffee machine. And a sausage sizzle. The sausage sizzle people are also offering cold drinks, but that will need to be, you'll need to buy those. We have fantastic information down the front at the registration desk, one of which is a price sheet. So it's a bit of paper which tells you about all the cars, the battery sizes, the range, and how much they cost. Please, if you haven't yet, register for the bulk buy. That is how you're going to receive all of our information moving forward. On Monday, everybody will get an email with your community voucher and the button to press to go in and look at all of our available cars. And in the coming weeks, the numbers of cars will just continue to increase with the range growing. I have one more thing to say, apart from thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you to all of our volunteers who come to spread the word about electric vehicles today. Could I please invite everyone to come outside where the musician is playing and gather together in a little bunch, because I really want to take a group photo. If you do not want to appear in any marketing or communication, please excuse yourself from that and just let me know, and I will make sure that none of your images ever go out in any of our emails or on our website. Let's go! Thanks, everyone.
Da 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 da.